Welcome back for another book review. Today we're talking about this one. So this is part of the Pagan Portals series. They are these teeny tiny little pamphlet books, and as I have mentioned in my past couple videos, we're going to be serenaded by the lovely sounds of construction for the foreseeable future. So just maybe don't have headphones for this one. Anyways, we're talking about Hellenic. I always want to say it's Hellenistic, but Hellenic Paganism. And this is by Samantha Leaver. I think so, you're supposed to say that name. Anyways, this one. So this one is a brief introduction in, because obviously, I mean, it's not gonna be in depth. It's brief, very brief introduction into this author's variation of a Hellenic, again, it trips me. I'm so used to seeing everywhere else say Hellenistic, Hellenic version of paganism. So if you don't know, Hellenic, and also I think Hellenistic paganism is a variation of the Greek gods in particular. Just like how you have like the Viking gods, which is kind of, that term is kind of going away and just being replaced with the more accurate term of Norse. And you have Celtic, but then also that's kind of a broad statement. A lot of times we're getting a little more specific into like Welsh or Irish or whatever. But anyways, this one is for the Greeks. And the focus of this book is how this author is bringing those gods into the modern world. It's not a Reconstructionist book. A few of the reviews that I saw for this were very mad about that, and I'm like, she literally says it at like the beginning of the book, but okay. So yeah, if you're a Reconstructionist, a revivalist, stuff like that, of like, we gotta get it from the past, we gotta stick as much to the past as possible, blah. This is not for you, my friend. Not everyone wants to recreate the past. It kind of was stupid, honestly. Our ancestors were assholes all the way around the world, and I just don't know why. We obsess. We can make it modern. So yeah, anyways, it's for the modern pagans. I gave this one like a 3.5 out of 5 because like, it's okay. It's not that great, but it's not that bad. Hence the 3 is such a wide spectrum for me. But the thing is, this is a good introduction, kinda. The thing that I don't like about this book is that it doesn't really explain a lot, and it bases a lot on you already knowing stuff. And, you know, when you are setting out the information like it's for a beginner, but then you're not actually like explaining things as if they're a beginner, it doesn't really work. You can't have it both ways. And so like, sure, most of us, I'm pretty sure around the world, are taught about the Greek gods at some point, kinda. But also, a lot of times, we're kind of taught the more Disney-fied version versus the more historical, like mythological version, or like, oh my god, the Percy Jackson books, which were awful, and I did not like those. But yeah, like, we're not always like really well taught for like the actual myths. And so when you go and kind of introduce like, oh yeah, well, you know, like this dude and like this thing and this story, and of course it's this, and like so brief of like a just a little recap, it doesn't really work. And so this book just kind of assumes that you know that. You also have this assumption that you know what Wicca is, the Wheel of the Year. There's just a lot of assumptions, and also just like basic witch things of like casting a circle and creating sacred space, and like there's a lot of assumption that you already know things. It's very similar to one I talked about recently, which was I think Celtic Witchcraft by like Maeve Savage, which again probably mispronouncing, but it's very similar in that way of like there's this assumption that you know stuff, but also we're introducing it like you're a beginner simultaneously, and I just don't love that. Like, I don't know, I read so many books that you're kind of like, who exactly is this for? Because you're making assumptions that the audience is going to know certain things, but then also explaining things as if they've never heard of it somehow at the same time. So I just don't love it, and I feel like we could have maybe, I don't know, explained it a little more, but also I think there might be a word count cap for the Pagan Portals books, so maybe that's just a thing. Some of the other reviews were really mad about like the sentence structure and stuff. This reads like how you would hear someone talk, and I don't necessarily mind that. It wasn't too bad. Some people aren't going to like that. That's fine. This is not an academic source, so like if that's what you're wanting and you're wanting that really heavily structured awful writing that you find in academia, this is not for you. But if you are fine with that, this is great. So I would say this book is probably best if you are seeking out Hellenic / really Greek paganism in the modern context, to give some ideas, to get a little inspiration. but also do plan that you're gonna have to do a lot more research outside of this book. So anyways, I would love to know your thoughts on this one in the comments down below. As always, a huge thank you to my patrons. If you would like to support me and get access to exclusive content, it is patreon.com/nightwillowcrafts. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I post every single day, and until next time, thank you so much for watching, and blessed be.